Child Care and Early Years Act, Part 3, we're going to look at regulations, which is a rule or directive made and maintained by an authority. In this case, the authority is the Ministry of Education. We're going to start with ratios and maximum group sizes. When you look at this schedule, Schedule 1, it outlines age categories, as you can see, the age ranges for those categories, and then the ratio of employee to children, and then the maximum group sizes. So as it relates to the middle two columns, the ratio for employees and children, so for infants, it's 3 to 10, which as you can see is a very interesting number, and the maximum group size of children is 10. For toddlers, it's 1 to 5. So for every one educator, there is 5 toddlers, or there can be 5 toddlers, which is a maximum group size of 15. Preschoolers is 1 to 8 with a maximum group size of 24. Kindergarten is 1 to 13 with a maximum group size of 26. Primary/junior school age is 1 to 15 with a maximum group size of 30. And junior school age is 1 to 20. As you will notice under the age range for this category, it's children 9 and above. So all the children or more of the children need to be 9 and above for the licensee to use the 1 to 20 ratio, and the maximum group size is 20. So they can't have any more or any more within that group. When you look at the very last column as it relates to qualified staff, it's showing you kind of a percentage or a fraction rather, and it's saying 1 out of 3. So in the 3 infant staff, if you have all 10, so we're going to pretend we have all the children in the maximum group size, you have to have 1 RECE. 1 RECE in the infant room out of the 3, 1 RECE in the toddler room, 2 RECEs in the preschool room, 1 RECE in the kindergarten room out of the 2, and 1 RECE in the school age. So because junior primary, the maximum group size is 20 and it's 1 staff to 20, there's only 1 staff, and that staff has to be a qualified staff. Mixed age grouping. So this allows the information about the age category, the size of the program room, which was the maximum group size from the previous schedule and chart that we just looked at, and then it lets you know how many children of a younger age can be in that group in order to mix. Infants, you cannot have any sort of mixture. There is no younger anyway. Toddlers, you may only have 3 children younger than 18 months in the toddler room. So what's important to note is that you have to know the age ranges for the age categories in order to know who is younger and how many children you can have. So the toddlers can only have 3, preschool can only have 5, and kindergarten is 7, and primary school age is 8, and junior school age is 5. So that means in the toddler room you can have 3 infants, in the preschool room you can have 3 toddlers possibly, in the kindergarten room you can have 5 preschoolers, but really it just means 5 children younger than the age category. So whether it's infant and toddler, preschool, toddler and preschool in the kindergarten, you would have to make sure that that did not conflict with other aspects of the CCEYA. For reduced ratios, this is letting you know how many children you can have for the first hour and a half of the program and for the last hour. So in the past, before the CCEYA, reduced ratio was 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, and there were cause for some change with that based on not having a lot of people in the program in the morning, having fewer people on the premises in the afternoon. So they've changed it to an hour and a half in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. And this is based on, which is very important to note, the hours of operation for your program. So it's not an hour and a half from whenever you feel like it. It's from an hour and a half from whenever you open. So if you open at 7 o'clock, you can have reduced ratio from 7 to 8:30, but if you opened at 8 o'clock, it would be 8 to 9, 9 to 9:30. So you could have it longer because of your hours of operation. So this allows for one staff to have 8 children during that reduced ratio time. Okay, so supervisor counted in ratio. The supervisor may be counted in ratio if they have fewer than 5 full-time employees. They may be counted as 100% as a staff member. If they have 5 or 6 full-time employees, they may be counted as a full-time supervisor and a full-time employee half of the time. And if they have 7 or more full-time employees, they cannot be counted as an employee, and that means they can't be used for ratio, and then they do need to just assume the supervisor role. Rest period. Every licensed childcare that operates for 6 hours or more in a day must have a rest period that doesn't exceed 2 hours. And the rest period is required for children that are toddler, preschool, kindergarten for this 2-hour time period. Kindergarten may vary, and infants have their own sleep schedule. Supervisor qualifications. In order to be a supervisor in a licensed childcare in Ontario, you do need to be in good standing with the College of ECE and have at least 2 years of experience providing licensed childcare. This includes your placement and student volunteer periods as well. You have to be able to understand the CCEYA, hence doing the self-test. You have to be able to be responsible for the day-to-day operation of the child care center, and you are required to ensure that you are in good standing and that you do know how to oversee staff and children. The other thing to note is that if you have a specific philosophy, such as Montessori or Reggio or high scope, these different philosophies, you may, especially Montessori, you may be able to have a director's approval to be a supervisor, which it indicates here. Without being in good standing with the College of ECE, because as Montessori trained staff, you may or may not have your RECE. Employee qualifications, adults on premises. So when you have a certain number of children on the premises, you do need to have a certain number of staff. So if you have fewer than 6 children, 1 adult has to be on the premises. If you have 6 or more children, you need 2 adults on the premises. If you have fewer than 4 infants, you need 1 adult. If you have 4 or more, you need 2 adults. Children do need to be supervised at all times when they're on or off the premises. So that means when they're at the child care center, they do need to be supervised at all times, or when you're in the playground, or when you go for a walk, or when you're on a field trip. So they do need to be supervised at all times. So do students and volunteers. So they're not permitted to be alone with children under section 11.11, and they do need to be supervised. And that is also outlined in one of the mandatory policies that says students won't be left alone and that they're supervised by that cooperating teacher. It also outlines the roles and responsibilities for not only that student or volunteer, but for their cooperating or overseeing teacher and for the licensee or supervisor of the program as well. Family age grouping. So family age grouping is considered Schedule 4. When you do the CCEYA self-test, you will notice that there are two categories that you can access the self-test with. Schedule 1 or Schedule 4. Schedule 1 is what we talked about in the beginning of this lecture, and the age categories and the required number of staff for those for a specific maximum age group for a number of children in the age category. Schedule 4 is referring to this. So this means it's a family age grouping where children are mixed together and there's no division by age category. They all just are in one group. And this is broken down into different requirements. So the ratio for employee to children based on just solely age. So there's no there's no infant, toddler, preschool. It's all children together. So they have these different ratios. They also have a maximum number of children of 15. So in this family age grouping, you cannot have any more than 15 children, regardless of their age. And you have to do certain calculations to figure out how many children you may be permitted to have under family age grouping. It is a requested category under your license, and you would have a special condition on your license that allows for family age grouping for the group of these children to mix all together with a maximum group size of 15. Rest period. So during the rest period for this age group, if it is 6 or more hours, it does still need to have a rest period that doesn't exceed 2 hours, but it's a little bit different as it relates to how it speaks to who needs to have this rest. It talks about being 24 months or older, but younger than 5. So this is trying to encompass toddler to preschool, but not specifically say that kindergartens need to be resting for that rest period that doesn't exceed 2 hours. Municipal approval. So municipal approvals are required in terms of the space and requirements of a childcare center. So before you have a childcare center and you find a space, you finish all your mandatory policies, you will then need to have zoning by the municipality. In this case, it's Toronto. You will need building approval for whatever facility that you did choose. And then you will need fire approval. So you need the fire department to come in and say that the room or the space is structurally sound and that they have no objections to you obtaining a childcare license because it is safe. And then where you cook and wash hands and serve food, public health will want to know that that space is safe and healthy, and then they will offer an approval. So you do require all these approvals prior to being able to use a space as licensed childcare, in addition to having all the mandatory policies, as well as floor plans that need to be approved by the ministry. And in most cases, floor plans also need to be approved by building in your municipality. And sometimes they're looked at by public health, which in this case in Toronto they are, or even fire uses floor plans to determine the exits and evacuation for each program room. You do also need a site plan, which is basically a plan of the surrounding outside area of the childcare center, which outlines where the playground is, how you access the childcare center from the playground, how far it is from the street, what are the main intersections, and all that additional information. So in order to open that licensed childcare center, you need many municipal approvals. You need floor plans, site plans, as well as mandatory policies and procedures. And for the outdoor space, as a requirement, children who are in a program for more than 6 hours have to be outside for at least 2 hours each day. So traditionally, children go outside an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, but that is not the only way to incorporate this 2 hour requirement. Some programs go for half an hour in the early morning, half an hour in the before lunch, half an hour after lunch, and then half an hour after sleep time. That's still at least 2 hours, but it doesn't have to. It can be creative if the schedule allows, and that is the requirement for outdoor time. And that is the requirement as it relates to a program that operates for more than 6 hours. The other thing to note is if you find a childcare center or space that you want to be a childcare center and there is no outdoor space, in most cases, you wouldn't be allowed to operate your childcare center for more than 6 hours. Your program could be, up to 2 hours and 59 minutes, but it cannot be past the 6 hour mark. Sorry, 6 hours and 59 minutes. It can't be past that mark. So you would have to find an outdoor space. Some locations have less outdoor space than others, where they get creative, where you have a rooftop playground. Sometimes what we call it is playground rotations, where the space may be a little bit smaller, so the children have to rotate throughout the space because you need to be out for at least the 2 hours per day.